Ethereum is still just objectively the best option. Like I'm not an ETH maxi. Like I'm a Web3 maxi, and I will be a diehard advocate of like whatever the best technology is that like gets us to this future that I want to see. And Ethereum is objectively the best technology that we have for that right now. And I think that it will continue to be the best technology that we have for that forever. There's pieces of Ethereum that you actually can't replicate. Like it's impossible to replicate kind of the distribution of ETH that was required to like make proof of stake as decentralized as it is right now. And so I think the agility of the team and the brilliance of the team and the leadership of Vitalik and others is very hard to replicate. And they're able to kind of just like pivot and adjust and make the changes that they need to make to kind of adopt the objectively best technology for the job. So that's like piece number one is I think it is the best tech. And then two, there's like these intangibles that you just physically cannot replicate. So I think that's a moat that I don't think anyone can disrupt.
Welcome to the Edge Podcast. I'm DeFi Dad here with Nomadic. Today's show spotlights the founder of Intuition, Billy Luedtke. Before we got into Intuition, we talked a lot about his background in Ethereum. He goes all the way back to 2014. He's got roots in Bitcoin. What stood out to you, Nomadic? I've known Billy for many years as a friend, so I was learning as we were walking through the interview about a lot more of his background than even I understood.
I think there's just a pattern of him being early to everything, early to Bitcoin in 2012, early to Ethereum, and he keeps calling it luck, but he had a background in distributed systems engineering and finance. So you combine those things together, and of course, things like Bitcoin and Ethereum made sense to him. So just one of those kind of unique backgrounds that at this point in time, when all this stuff was colliding, he was kind of perfectly suited to just understand it and have it click for him.
When we worked at Consensus together, Billy was always very forward-thinking about wanting to work on ideas and projects that would benefit from the decentralization of Ethereum, the trust of settling on Ethereum. I think DeFi was the first major win that the two of us were very excited about. It felt like the use case that was the breakout win for Ethereum, but he has always had his eyes on bigger prizes in terms of reimagining how the internet works, reimagining all of the downfalls of Web 2, just these mega big tech corporations basically owning our data. And these have always been problems that I think are less sexy to work on. It just feels like the world is catching up with more of the radical ideas that he really wanted to work on.
Yeah, and if you boil a blockchain down to just kind of like its most base function, they're tools for trust. And I think what we sort of walk through on this podcast is just, there's already that substrate of trust that Ethereum has built, but in order to extend that trust to all these other layers and applications and just things that people are going to interact with on their day-to-day lives, there's other tools needed in the stack, and that's something that Intuition is trying to bring to the table. We also talk about the potential dark future if some of these problems aren't tackled with what Billy's working on. If this like almost tech oligopoly ends up controlling every facet of our daily lives and decision-making process, then I think we've failed. And this is the big problem that Billy's really trying to tackle head on.
We are hoping to get this out just a few days ahead of the mainnet launch for Intuition, which would also coincide with their token launch. So hopefully this is timely information for folks out there. So just a quick reminder, you can subscribe at the-edge.xyz. That's the best place to stay updated on new podcasts and new posts through the Edge newsletter. You can go to our link tree at edge_pod. That's the best place to subscribe to the Edge podcast on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. And then a quick shout out to all of our sponsors. They are the ones that make all this content possible. We have awesome sponsors like TOROS Finance and REDSTONE. And otherwise, we hope you enjoy the episode. Grow wealth exponentially. With TOROS leverage tokens, when the market moves in your favor, your gains become parabolic. They're built to ride trends, auto-compounding profits. With TOROS, it's simple. Pick a vault, deposit, and your exposure is multiplied, maintained, and protected automatically against liquidations. TOROS reduces risk and keeps you in the market ready for the rebound. When markets dip, the vaults auto-adjust, softening losses and preserving your position. Just pick a token to multiply your returns. TOROS Finance, exponential gains with leverage tokens. To learn more, go to toros.finance. REDSTONE is building the Oracle backbone to unlock real-world finance on-chain and next-gen DeFi. With modular gas-efficient feeds across over 110 chains, trusted by 170 clients, supporting over 1,300 assets, from value-accruing stablecoins, liquid staking and restaking tokens, to treasuries, private credit, and commodity tokens, REDSTONE delivers accurate real-time data where it matters most. The biggest platforms and protocols in DeFi today choose REDSTONE oracles, such as Athena, Securitize, BlackRock Biddle, Pendle, Spark, and Maple Finance. If you're building the future of finance on-chain, you need REDSTONE's leading modular blockchain oracle layer. To learn more, go to redstone.finance, and thanks to REDSTONE for supporting us here at the Edge Podcast and Edge Newsletter. Banks use your money to line the pockets of shareholders. Meanwhile, Solstice uses the same yield strategies to line your pockets. Introducing Yield Vault, Solana's best yield. A live delta-neutral strategy with positive returns month over month for 3 years. Built for internet capital markets and powered by the stablecoin USX. To learn more, go to solstice.finance. FALCON Finance, the team behind the fastest growing synthetic dollar, with institutional yields that are competitive and sustainable, offering yield optimized across your favorite DeFi protocols. Point season is now live. Learn more at falcon.finance. NEUTRL is the next generation of crypto-native yield. Their synthetic dollar NUSD taps into OTC arbitrage, funding rate inefficiencies, and delta-neutral strategies to deliver premium, stable returns without taking market direction risk. NEUTRL is currently live in private beta and will be opening for public deposits soon. Learn more at neutral.fi. All right, let's introduce Billy Luedtke, founder of Intuition. Billy, welcome to the Edge Podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you guys for having me. I'm really looking forward to this.
So I've known Billy for years as a friend. We used to work together at Consensus. He's been in Ethereum since 2014. We got to start with your background there. So Billy, talk to us about how did you get into Ethereum? I know you've got stories from the DAO hack. You were there when the DAO was hacked. Tell us about your career over the course of Ethereum.
Yeah, happy to. So it was kind of a lucky sequence of events that led me to where I'm at right now into Ethereum. So I did my undergrad in industrial and systems engineering. First job ever was helping build a distributed seismic network at Caltech with the United States Geological Survey Office. I was like, nope, like not doing very interesting things with related, like in relation to that, but I was there and working on it. And so I got like very early exposure to distributed systems. And then after that, I became a financial services technology consultant at Ernst & Young. And so I was behind the scenes at all the big banks and I saw their processes. And before doing that, I thought, oh, like these guys totally have their shit together, for lack of better words. It's like, oh, you see the big buildings and you see the big pillars and it's like, oh, I'm going to trust these guys with my money. And then you get behind the scenes, you're like, oh my God, you're managing trillions of dollars with Excel spreadsheets that this guy can just arbitrarily edit. This is insane. This is unsalvageable. You got this 1960s COBOL mainframe. Like we have to build a parallel system because you actually just can't salvage what you guys have, this abomination that has evolved. And so like systems engineering plus financial services, technology consulting, plus distributed systems experience. Plus I really liked botting in video games. So I played a lot of Blizzard video games, played RuneScape, And my favorite feeling in the world was just having the computer do things for me while I went out and did other things. And so back in 2012, when I heard about Bitcoin, I just started off as a miner, like very small time, just wasn't making much money. But I just loved that feeling of having my computer do something productive for me while I could go and do other things. So started off as a miner. I was kind of skeptical at first, honestly, but then like very quickly, just from doing that, I kind of dove down the rabbit hole. And, you know, not too long after starting mining, I was like, oh my God, this is absolutely going to change the world. Like this is objectively a better system than what we have now. So got super lucky, got involved in Bitcoin early, was one of the first Dogecoin miners, 2013. That was fun. I was a Dogecoin maxi for the longest time. And then Ethereum was basically, I learned about Ethereum super early by happen chance. So basically I was in San Francisco, working in San Francisco at the time, and I was at this hacker house, and there was a party, and I was talking to this guy out front, and the Ethereum white paper had just been released. And so he's like, hey, have you like heard about this thing Ethereum? And he explained it to me still to this day with one of the best explanations that I've ever heard, luckily, because his explanation, and I'm happy to give that explanation if you guys would like, but he explained it so well that I got so excited about it that I went home and started researching it. This was March of 2014, and it turns out Vitalik was coming to present at the first, Silicon Valley Ethereum meetup back then. And I was like, oh my God, this guy Vitalik is going to be here next week. We got to go down to the Hacker Dojo and listen to him talk. So I drove these guys down, and I just met all of the most interesting people that I had ever met. And I was like, oh my God, this is where I need to be. There's something magical happening here. This is, the reason why I got into crypto or was like excited about it in the first place. All these guys are upholding these values, whereas Bitcoin had kind of in 2014 already become like very money oriented, and there was a lot of people who were like just in it for the money, and I was more in it was always in it for the tech. I was like, oh, this is where the people are. I found them. And so I've just been absolutely obsessed ever since, and was so obsessed that ended up like helping start the blockchain consulting practice at Ernst & Young. So I was a consultant before that, and then me and 5 other people pitched it to leadership and got it approved and created the practice, and then moved over to Consensus after that. And that is where I met Mr. DeFi Dad and a bunch of people, and I was there for 8 years, 5 full-time, 3 as a special advisor. But that's kind of my history, and I worked on a bunch of stuff while at Consensus, but I won't bore you with that right now. But that's kind of the origin story.
Can I just add, so I think it was 2021, Billy, you introduced me to a few of your friends, and I believe this like goes back to college days, but they were investing in crypto. They were specifically farming DeFi, and I had like really gotten into DeFi. So I'm at Consensus. I'm running ethereal events. I'm learning about DeFi, and now I'm developing like more of like a public persona through this like DeFi Dad brand of just showcasing how I'm using DeFi. And man, it's such a great example of just being open and friendly and networking with like-minded people. The folks that you introduced me to, Keegan and EJ, who are the founding partners of Fourth Revolution Capital, I ended up eventually like going to work with them. It wasn't till maybe like a year later, so just staying in touch, talking about DeFi. And then that's, of course, where Nomadic and I met. So anyways, it all connects back to like these like really simple meetings. Like we would not even know each other if Billy had not originally introduced me to our friends there. So small world.
That's crazy. I didn't even think about that. And then I think I got on with Fourth Revolution through you too, DeFi Dad. Like I saw one of your tweets, but yeah, wild when you think about all that. I want to go back to a couple things Billy said, because a few things that stood out. Ernst & Young have been crypto and specifically ETH bulls for a long time. So it's interesting that you might have kicked off that passion in that company, which is like a really cool thing to point out.
I think that is an interesting observation. So like even to this day, Ernst & Young is very ETH aligned, and I don't think like I definitely had some part to play. I I was the only one who actually like understood Ethereum back then, especially at there was like 12 people who understood Ethereum, and I was one of them, and I was definitely the only person at EY that understood it. And so like there was a couple of the early people kind of involved in the blockchain practice. I was the one kind of initially pitching it to them, but it was the hire of Paul Brody. So it was Angus Champion de Crepney was the like, he was the highest ranking person who kind of like rallied the troops to make it happen. And he had super early conversations with the Ethereum Foundation. He wasn't very bullish. I think he's still not very bullish. And I remember ETH was like $2. He's like, I got to sell my ETH. Like, I don't believe in it. So I don't know how much ETH influence he had over things, but Paul Brody, I think, just has the correct mindset. He was doing super early Ethereum stuff. I don't know if you remember, but he was doing like, I saw demos of him doing IoT POCs. I think it was at IBM, where like the washing machine would order detergent for itself like via Ethereum. So I think he was the main impetus for their very strong ETH alignment, which has been so cool to observe, and they've done so many cool things. So I'm just very proud to have been kind of like at least a small part of that influence for sure.
The other thing that we got to go back to is that guy standing outside the party. You have to tell us what he said and how he phrased Ethereum to, if you remember. And my follow-up to that is, was it Tom Lee that you met outside?
I wish it was Tom Lee. He's faded off into, I think, like, we all invested in the pre-sale. I think he did pretty well. He's faded into, I think he's probably on a farm somewhere, so I won't mention his name. Yeah, so the way that he described it was, he was like, think of a lottery. So think of you want to start a lottery right now. How do you do it? Well, like, who's going to trust you with their money? Who's going to trust you to make sure that the right randomness exists with the numbers? Who's going to trust you to do the payout? Because of this, you can't start a lottery. Like, no, there's so much friction involved. It becomes a multi-billion-dollar business to do a like big lottery. Just because of this friction of trust, because you need a middleman at every single step of the way. And he's like, think about a lottery. It's like 5 lines of code. Like, what if that could just run trustlessly with like tamper-proof, like totally censorship resistance, permissionless, like the code just exists in 5 lines of code. Then you get rid of all the middlemen of this otherwise super frictionful process. And then he's like, think about that for everything. It's like, oh my God, like, of course, like, you can't look away once you see that. Or like, I don't know. There was another guy in the conversation who I don't think got as excited as me. So maybe there's something to it. But to me, like that, I was just like, oh yeah, like that is objectively a better way of doing things. Like that's how it's going to work. And so from that moment, I've literally been obsessed ever since.
What is your thesis though on ETH in 2025? Like it's no longer a contrarian bet. I think there's enough big money allocators. There's enough in the mainstream media that are finally pushing it, like Tom Lee. It's still not a consensus trade by any means. I mean, there's anyone and everyone with an L1 bag to push. But I think the writing is on the wall in terms of where liquidity is migrating to and where it is sticking. You know, there's just so much liquidity that sits on Ethereum mainnet and on its L2. So anyways, what is your updated thesis on Ethereum and ETH, the asset, in 2025?
Ethereum is still just objectively the best option. Like I'm not an ETH maxi. Like I'm a Web3 maxi, and I will be a diehard advocate of like whatever the best technology is that like gets us to this future that I want to see. And Ethereum is objectively the best technology that we have for that right now. And I think that it will continue to be the best technology that we have for that forever, because it's not, sure, there's technical nuance, but it's also kind of the organic kind of formation of Ethereum. There's pieces of Ethereum that you actually can't replicate. Like it's impossible to replicate kind of the distribution of ETH that was required to like make proof of stake as decentralized as it is right now. And so I think, one, the agility of the team and the brilliance of the team and the leadership of Vitalik and others is very hard to replicate. And they're able to kind of just like pivot and adjust and make the changes that they need to make to kind of adopt the objectively best technology for the job. So that's like piece number one is I think it is the best tech. And then two, there's like these intangibles that you just physically cannot replicate. So I think that's a moat that I don't think anyone can disrupt. And so I think that where we're at in the life cycle is, I don't want to say we made it. Like it's definitely not a consensus bet, and I'm very happy for that, because that means that there's still upside to be had. So like if I put on my purely financial hat, if it was a consensus bet, even within crypto, that means that there's market saturation. But the fact that it's not a consensus bet, that just makes me even more bullish. And then the fact that nobody even understands Bitcoin yet in like normal person world, like they're just learning about Bitcoin. It's going to take them. I thought they were going to understand this stuff faster, but it's going to take them 10 more years to understand Ethereum. So I think we're still, it's crazy to think about it, but it still feels like we're in inning one. Like we haven't even done any, there's so much more to come. So I am extremely excited for the future. And one huge hurdle that I think we've overcome. So last cycle, I was talking to Joe Lubin, and I'll never forget this. And ETH was doing pretty good, and price was up, and I was like, Joe, we made it. He's like, oh, we have not made it. We just got to the battlefield with our like ragtag mercenary army with like a couple axes, and we're going against like, you know, the U.S. Army. They got nukes. Like we made it to the battlefield, but we have like so much more to do. But like I'm happy we at least made it here, and that kind of metaphor always stuck with me. And I think like last cycle we made it to the battlefield, and this cycle we're starting to get some wins. We're starting to get the institutional validation and adoption, and the presidents of countries are talking about this and buying it for their treasuries, and like it's so insane how far we've come. And we haven't won the battle, but we're on the battlefield, and we're like gaining ground. And so it's a really cool place to be, and it makes me very excited because it's still early. There's still so much work to do. There's still just like this green field of innovation where even though the meta right now is kind of boring to me, at least it's like payments and stable coins. And it's like, okay, like great. That is awesome. Revenue meta. We love the revenue meta, you know, real tangible use cases. But there's still this almost infinite greenfield of untapped opportunity that was like all the old consensus ideas that just failed. And then people have been scared to try them again because there was so much failure. And there was so much failure because it was so early. It was too early. And people were too idealistic in their approach to building these things. But I think we're going to see some of those things starting to reemerge. And then people's mindset with respect to like what this tech can be used for is going to expand. They're like, oh my God, it's not just payments and stable coins. You can decentralize everything. And that's what we have to do. So yeah, it's so cool. And I could not be more excited about Ethereum's future right now.
This episode is brought to you by MANTLE, pioneering a revolutionary new category called blockchain for banking by bridging TradFi and Web3 into one unified stack. With on-chain transactions, TradFi rail compatibility, and integrated DeFi features, MANTLE is reshaping how financial services work. Their flagship app UR lets users hold fiat and crypto all in one Swiss-backed account, making real-world finance usable on-chain. To learn more, go to ur.app and follow Mantle_official on Twitter. Maple Finance is one of my favorite products in DeFi. It is a gateway to sustainable real yield powered by over $1 billion in AUM across USDC and BTC products. And now with SYRUPUSDC by Maple, anyone can earn institutional-grade yield. Learn more at syrup.fi, and thanks to Maple for supporting us here at the Edge Podcast and Edge Newsletter.
Something else you said earlier, Billy. So, you know, we talked about the financial elements of Ethereum that have been a success. And, you know, you kind of hinted at like, that's great, but it's not really what excites you the most. And you talked about a ton of consensus ideas that were tried back in the day and maybe failed. But it does seem now that there's this time for even more experimentation in Ethereum, and like there's other things that people can go after. And this kind of brings me to what you're building. So would love to kind of hear from your perspective what problems you saw forming out there that you felt you needed to go fix or address, or what ignited that passion in you that you originally had, I guess, over a decade ago when you first heard about Ethereum.
Yeah, I love that. So for me, it's been the same problem. I mean, like, there's a lot of exciting things, but one thing has excited me more than the rest since the beginning, and that's identity. So back when I was still at UI, we were building these identity POCs. They were just like KYC. It was like, oh, why do you have to KYC with all these different institutions every single time you sign up? Why can't you just KYC once and you can pass that credential around? So I was doing that, ended up joining like the founding meeting of the Decentralized Identity Foundation, meeting Ruben from the Uport team, ended up working on Uport, which was like the first self-sovereign identity thing. It was a consensus spoke. And that kind of, I've just been down the identity rabbit hole for so long where like if you go, just like with Ethereum, if you go down the rabbit hole, you can't look away. If you go down the identity rabbit hole, you can't look away. Like it's objectively, there are objectively better ways of doing things here. And it is the way that the world is going to work. And these primitives are, I think, a precursor to unlocking most of the use cases in crypto. Like I think you actually need these decentralized identity primitives to be able to do the more advanced stuff. And that's why I was focused on it since the beginning, is because I thought it was going to be the precursor to Ethereum kind of getting product market fit. And we just kind of circumvented it with DeFi and NFTs and some of these things where, that those have been wildly successful without these identity primitives. But like once we solve this, it's going to be crazy. We're going to unlock the floodgates and people are going to like actually understand the power of this technology, like even more so than they do now. And so for me, it's identity and data and information are like, they're all very intertwined. Like you can't kind of do one without the other. And so to me, when I say identity, I think it means something different than it means to most people. So when people oftentimes hear the word identity, they think like KYC, AML, Sybil resistance. They think of the identities of people. And that's exciting. That's cool. Like that's where I started back in, 2015 or whatever. But what really excites me about decentralized identity is the identities of all things. So everything has an identity. So like, I got like my phone has an identity, and, my credit card has an identity. Like every single thing in the world has an identity. Doesn't have a, globally persistent canonical decentralized digital identifier. But what if it did? Like what if every single thing was like uniquely referenceable across the internet? And then we did this like agent-centric model of data and information where like the entity is the fulcrum point around which the data aggregates. So like as I interact with platforms, instead of the data being correlated with my application-specific identifiers, it's correlated with me. And then any application I go to, it has the information it needs. And in one click of a button, I don't have to fill out my profile again. I don't have to fill out my preferences again. Don't need my connections again. It's just a seamless web experience. And then when I go to look for something, that thing also has like a canonical, globally persistent digital identifier where it's like a product. Instead of me context switching between 35 different platforms to look at the reviews, look at the comments, look at the star ratings, it could all be in one spot because now it's associated with like one identifier for the thing. So I think that what I just explained is kind of the technical nuance to like what this identity thing is. But like the underlying kind of use case that this solves for that is so essential is decentralizing information. So just as we have decentralized finance, and everyone's been focused on decentralizing finance, equally, if not more important, is decentralizing the flow of information. Because if someone controls the flow of information, they control everything. They control what we think, what we buy, what we think is true, what is false. They control history. Like they control quite literally everything. And right now, if you think about the way that we discover information online, like there's really two ways that we get information. We we can talk to people. We can have these conversations. We can do the podcast. We can listen to the podcast. We get info this way. That's kind of peer-to-peer. Like, this is pretty as peer-to-peer as it can get, but it's pretty frictionful, and it takes a lot of time, and it's not very efficient. And then the more efficient way is all centralized. You got to go through Google, and you got to go through ChatGPT, and you got to go through Yelp, and you got to go through Amazon, and then you're at the whim of their algorithm, and you see what they want you to see, and you don't see what they don't want you to see. And sure, like some try to do a better job of being objective than others, but there is always a bias. There is always a slant. They're always trying to get you to do something. And the really scary part about this is I didn't think this would happen as fast as it has, but with the emergence of AI and the acceleration of it, no one's doing research anymore. Now they're just prompting the AI. They're taking what they get back as the canonical truth. And so whoever controls that controls everything. Like that, it's so imperative that we solve this, because otherwise we devolve into this dystopia where like the AI big tech giants literally control everything we think and everything we buy. It doesn't even matter if the money's decentralized. Like the interface for buying stuff in the future or consuming stuff generally is going to be AI. Like I think interfaces fall in the background. You're like, hey, book me a flight, book me a dinner reservation, do a swap, give me my portfolio balance. It's all going to be through just like, I don't know, AI. AI is going to be powering all of it. And so whoever controls that literally controls everything. And so, you know, a couple of weeks ago, Elon on a Twitter space said he's going to allow advertising through Grok. So, okay, think you're like, okay, I'm going to buy an office chair through Grok. I'm going to be, hey, Grok, buy me, what's the best office chair, 2025? And then it's whoever pays Elon the most for advertising. Like, this cannot be the way. No one can own that. No one can have the power to decide what information we get. And that's the way that we're trending. So we have to decentralize that. And that's what we're doing at Intuition. It's a long shot. It's very hard. We've been working on it for like 10 years, but like we're so close, and it's never been more important than right now.
Yeah, I see all this as sort of like that next frontier to tackle on trust. Like blockchains themselves have been, referred to as trust machines, and you kind of get that foundational trust in the blockchain. But if you're building other things on top of these blockchains, which of course we are, there's gaps in that trust. You need to extend it to these other layers, right? So I think it's still a bit abstract for me, but maybe Billy, can you walk through how Intuition works from a user perspective? How do people interact with it?
What we're trying to do is bring more trust to the layers of the stack that cannot yet be made trustless. Like you cannot make everything trustless. It's impossible. Like it's all the way down. It's just social consensus. Like even blockchains themselves are just social consensus. Like sure, there's cryptography and math that helps us come to social consensus, but at the end of the day, all we are doing is coming to like social or like intersubjective consensus about things. Even like the language we speak is social consensus. It's consensus. Okay, this sound is gonna equate to like this meaning. So if you look at everything, all of it's consensus. And so, what we think we can do is we can kind of apply these same crypto economic primitives that have been used to come to consensus on like the state of a ledger to, kind of do two things. One, come to consensus on the state of the ledger. So like the language that we speak on top of the ledger. So right now, like, we're kind of replicating the same issue of Web 2, except for something like, we get ERC20 and then we're all speaking the same language. We get ERC 720, 101, and we're all speaking the same language. But like those standards are few and far between. And so there's still like a lot of fragmentation. So like, what if we could incentivize people to come to consensus on like consensus language to speak in code terms, maybe not like physical language terms, but also physical language terms. And once you start getting people, speaking the same language more or less, then things become more interoperable. And when things become more interoperable, the data can flow to the places it needs to get to. And so that's how you unlock like intuition, which the whole point of intuition is give things better intuition in all their interactions. How do you get good intuition? You get good information about whatever you're interacting with or trying to decision make with respect to. And so how do you get that information? You got to like get the information to the places it needs to be at the point in time in which it needs to be there from the sources you trust. And it turns out that's very hard unless you like get things speak in the same language and you kind of restructure the data piping of the internet. And then you can like flow data to where it needs to be. And then some data is only in people's heads right now. So how do you get tap into that? Like that's the next level stuff where like we use, incentives to get the information from people's heads into the piping that's now more efficient. And then it goes through the piping and to the person who's trying to make the decision. So that's like how it works under the hood is, getting people the information they need to make good decisions. So adding more trust to the equation as opposed to trying to remove trust entirely. For some pieces we can remove trust entirely, but for others we just need more trust. So trustful, we're building like the trustful interaction layer for Web3. So what does the trustful interaction layer look like? It just looks like anytime you go to do anything, you have more trust and more information that you need to make a decision. So there's not like an intuition app. We're like low-level infrastructure for this stuff. So it could be any app. Like, of course, we're building some apps on top to like kind of demonstrate what you can do with this stuff. But the form factor could look like, you've got your augmented reality glasses on and you're at the store and you're looking at the product. And it's like, oh, which friends of mine also bought this? Or which friends of mine like this? Like, who has reviewed this? Or, you go to shop on Amazon and instead of seeing 10,000 anonymous reviews from, bots, obviously, because no one leaves reviews, I just want one voice from one person I trust. Like how do I get, DeFi Dad's opinion on the product that I'm buying on Amazon? That's what I want. But like no one's leaving the review, so the data's not out there. So right now I have to talk to you to get that information. So how do we get you to express that somewhere and then get that data to me when I need it? So it's like, it looks like you're looking for a podcast to listen to. You're looking for a book to read. You're looking for a new token to buy. You are just any decision that you're trying to make, hiring someone, investing in a project. It doesn't matter. It's all about like getting you whatever information you need to better be able to decision make in that scenario.
Billy, given your conviction for building on Ethereum, when we talk about intuition as, quote, the native chain for information finance, powered by the world's first token-curated knowledge graph and the wisdom of the crowds, how does this all connect back to Ethereum? Like, is this a layer 2 or a layer 3? Like, what is it?
Yeah, so like you need like a credibly neutral substrate to host intuition. Like if you don't have that, then you're just replicating the same issues we have before or right now of, power ossifying into the hands of like a select few tech giants, and we would just be the next tech giant that power would, naturally accumulate to. So you need a credibly neutral substrate for this. Obviously, Ethereum mainnet would be the ideal choice, but that's too expensive. Like, we want every single action you take on the web to be a transaction. So like that's impossible on Ethereum mainnet. And then we were on base for a little bit, but we had partners who were like, hey, we want to do like tens of millions of transactions a day or a month. And it's like, oh, well, that's also cost prohibitive. So even though base is super cheap, it's not cheap enough. And so now we built our own base L3, which is, like 10,000 times cheaper and 100 times faster than base, that can hopefully for the foreseeable future accommodate the scale that, we need in terms of transactional throughput and cost and things like that to be able to fulfill all of the immediate term use cases we have. And then where we go from there, I don't know. But the only thing that I do know is we will obviously always remain Ethereum aligned so long as Ethereum remains aligned to its values, which it continues to do.
River is building a chain abstraction stablecoin system that connects assets, liquidity, and yield across multiple chains. Season 3 is live. Earn River points by using SAT-USD in DeFi such as Pendle, PancakeSwap, and Uniswap. Stake River points to accumulate more or convert points to River tokens whenever you like. To learn more, go to river.inc. Hey folks, I want to tell you about our sponsor GEARBOX, the protocol that reimagines on-chain lending. With GEARBOX, you can access 10x credit across DeFi or lend for passive yields with single asset deposits and no impermanent loss. Users can access leverage to margin trade, stake, farm, and more. To learn more about GEARBOX, go to gearbox.fi. Puffer Institutional delivers secure, high-yield Ethereum staking built for institutions with battle-tested security, granular access controls, and the ability to boost APY by securing multiple AVSs. Puffer gives institutions full control and optimized returns. Puffer is also behind the Unify-based rollup, aiming to transform Ethereum's future in a world where all L2s are working together. To learn more, go to institutional.puffer.fi. If you go back to Polymarket a few years ago, a lot of people could not wrap their heads around that. I know even though those of us that were early into Ethereum, we were all talking about prediction markets. A lot of that has to do with the influence of Vitalik. But with Polymarket, the breakout use case was betting on presidential elections. Like that was the one market that seemed to, get through to the mainstream and that this is valuable and it can work. And then suddenly you have sports betting and all sorts of other types of markets that have risen up on Polymarket. Do you have any use cases or examples for intuition that you're most excited for? Like, where do you think intuition can have an early win?
I'll give you 3 examples. I'll give you Web3 example, Web2, and then AI. So in Web3, the Web3 experience is totally broken. Like, new user comes in, they don't know anything. Maybe they get psyoped into buying like Cardano. Or maybe they get, they do a Google search and they say crypto wallet, and then they click a phishing link and then lose all their money immediately. Or maybe they make it past the 35 pitfalls and they somehow find a secure wallet and then they go to interact with any contract and then it's malicious and then they lose all their money. So like the crypto experience is totally broken. Like it is so scary. It's even scary for me. And I've been in it for 13 years. So I can't even imagine what it's like for new people. So how do we make it a little bit more navigable and a little bit more secure? Well, the information that's needed to navigate crypto is out there, but it's in people's heads again. Or it's like on Twitter and you got to scroll through, 24 hours of Twitter feed a day to understand like what the heck's going on. So what we can do is we can like crowdsource information about stuff in Web3 and we can serve it in your wallet, like right in MetaMask. So when you go to interact with a contract, it's like, oh, this thing has 35,000 Twitter followers and my friend likes it. And okay, this looks like Billy or whatever. Or like I interact with this smart contract. It's like, oh, my friend said it's a honeypot or a phishing link. I don't have to scroll through the group chat anymore to be like, hey, is this the right CA? It's like, oh no, like that's the scam one and this is the right one. So directly in your wallet, you can have like the confidence you need, not through some, you could build crazy algorithms on top, but it's just things saying things about things. So an auditor can say, hey, we audited this. Or your friend can say, I like this. Or Consensus can say, we built this. And then you can serve that information anywhere. You can also put it in Explorers. You could put it in Nansen, Dune, whatever. So it's like, imagine people want to leave comments on Etherscan. Where do you store the comments? On Etherscan servers? Of course not. Like if you store the comments in a decentralized way, then you could serve them across any app in crypto.
I would absolutely love to see that implemented into MetaMask. MetaMask has recently, they have a feature where they throw up some flag if you've never interacted with a smart contract. I've seen this with Rabby as well. It'll say, you've never sent Ether or stable coins to this address. It's so incredibly helpful. But I think what you're building through intuition, something that is more intelligent than have I ever sent money to a contract. I would love to have that. It's just a piece of information that if I knew I could trust it and it is, coming from a neutral source, it would be huge. It would really, I think, save a lot of terrible accidents from happening where people are using phishing links. But anyways, you were saying...
No, I think it's so obvious. And like, again, once you see it, you can't look away. There's like actually some MetaMask devs on the MetaMask team that in their spare time, they are building this, like we built an initial template snap and they're taking that template snap and actually like making it real. So hopefully, it'll be the ideal state is we're natively integrated in every wallet. But in the meantime, you can have a snap that unlocks that functionality for you. So that's Web3. And, you know, you can extrapolate that kind of general concept out to Web2. But there's two things, too many examples. There's so many things to build, sorry. But like two things in Web2 that I'm very excited about. One is a browser extension. So we built one, and then there's like 5 other teams. There's actually more that have built browser extensions now. But that Amazon flow that I mentioned before, we can circumvent Amazon. Like, we don't need Amazon's permission. We don't need Netflix permission. We don't need Goodreads permission to be able to serve you the voices from the people you trust, as opposed to the AI slop or the bot slop. So if you, and it's a little bit cumbersome right now, but if you go to GitHub and install like our extension, hopefully we'll be on the Chrome store at some point soon, but you can, like, regardless of what website you're on or what you're looking at, you can like bring your social graph with you anywhere and see what they're saying about stuff. So you could be on Amazon. It's like, oh, I'm shopping for supplements. Dr. Huberman likes this supplement. I don't care what the Amazon reviews say. I trust Dr. Huberman. I'm going to buy this one. Or I'm looking for, like, you know, new Web3 podcasts to listen to. And there's like a bunch of, I don't know, slop reviews. It's like, oh, like this person that I trust in Vitalik, like it's Vitalik, and Vitalik likes this podcast. Now we can serve that to you. It's like a new layer of real estate for the internet. Like, you can just overlay all these platforms with the information that you actually need from the sources you trust, now that you've decoupled identities from the platforms, and you decoupled social graphs and information from the platforms, and it's on this neutral, decentralized layer, and it can go anywhere. It's like not stuck in the confines of the platform. It can be served literally anywhere. So that's a super unlock there. And then the way that you get that information out there, I think, is also cool. And it's kind of where intuition came from. It is a better way to save the stuff you come across. So, like, question for you guys, like, what do you guys use right now? You come across a new book, a new podcast, a new movie, a new AI tool. Like, where do you save it? Do you bookmark it? Is it in your Apple Notes? Is it in your Roam Research? Like, what do you guys do?
I usually put it in my notes app, or I'll like, typically, I don't know if this is weird, but in like just my weekly calendar, I'll throw stuff into my calendar, and I usually have like a list of things to research in a free square, like in my calendar somewhere.
How often do you go back to the bookmarks?
Not often at all.
I had the confidence to ask that question because everyone's answer is the same. They're like, oh yeah, I bookmark, I save things, but then I don't go back to them. Like, I do the same thing. It's like a mess. It's like this hoarding mentality where we're like, oh yeah, like I'll save this for later. I'll totally go back and look at. Nobody goes back. Nobody looks at it. So, okay, what if, you know, you had a way better tool for anytime you came across anything, you just like saved it to your intuition. So you could think of your intuition as your like little second brain. So save it to your intuition, tag it with the appropriate things like book, sci-fi, or AI tooling, design, whatever. Use whatever tags you want. And then it's just like on this neutral layer where anyone could build an interface for it. And then we've built nice interfaces so you could have lists of things. So basically, as you go about life and you save stuff that you like or are interested in, you're doing it for you, but then it's also doing it for everyone else. So now that the information is out there, now when I follow you, maybe you can also charge for it. I don't know, subscription fee to access the things that I like or whatever. But like, now that the information is there, I can now go to, you know, a book and be like, oh, which of my friends have saved this? It's like, oh, cool. Like, people that I trust like this thing. Now I can better decision make.
When I use Ethereum, I have zero question as to whether the transactions that settle on Ethereum are real or whether someone has basically faked a transaction. I know that Ethereum can be trusted. I know that it's neutral. Same thing with something like a Bitcoin. If I could apply that sort of neutrality to other parts of my life, you know, a really simple example is reviews in general. Like, if you look at a review for a podcast, if you look at a review for a restaurant, and again, I'm not betting that these are going to be use cases that are going to be like the big early winners for intuition. I'm probably the most excited for this implementation of a wallet like MetaMask. I just don't have a source of truth beyond my own experience, my my protocol to bookmark websites and to go back to those. Like there's one set of bookmarks I do actually use. I'm bookmarking websites because I'm scared out of my mind of being led to the wrong website.
You know, getting all that data and getting that information, obviously there's a bit of a cold start kind of bootstrapping problem you have there, but this is sort of what Web3 does amazingly well, is you give out incentives to get actions from people in the early days, right? To kind of build that social graph, build that awareness. So you mentioned this trust token earlier. Can we talk a bit more about that and sort of the importance it will play in this system?
Yeah, great question. So trust kind of powers everything. I'll talk about how you don't need to bootstrap the graph with that much data and it's still useful, but you do want to bootstrap it with data, and that's where a lot of the crypto stuff comes into play. That's where the trust token comes into play. So basically, one, it's the native gas token of our network. We're like a base L3. So that's going live in 9 days from recording this. I don't know when this is going to get published, but like gas token of network, also gas token of the protocol, like quote unquote gas token. So anytime you like add data to this big graph, you pay a little bit in trust because it's entirely permissionless. And if it was free, then people could just spam the graph with infinite bad data, and that would not be so good. So low protocol fee. And then we have this concept of information markets. So going back to prediction markets, if you think about the superset of all information, like predictions or events that are going to resolve are a very small piece of like the superset of the information set. Like most things aren't resolving events. It's like, I like book. You can't resolve that market. You can like there's most, or who won the vice presidential debate. I guess you could do some like, there's some dude from Paradigm who came up with some cool model for like resolving those markets based on consensus. But like for the most part, I don't want my markets to resolve. I just want to say things about things, kind of like in Zora fashion, where it's like, oh, post. I like this post. It's not like there's a winner and a loser. It's just there's a one-sided market and the price goes up as other people like the thing. So what we do is we create perpetual markets for arbitrary data as opposed to resolving markets for events, if that makes sense. And so basically, you could think of intuition as it's this big knowledge graph, and each data point in the graph is a market. Like every single data point has a vault and it has a token. And so as you create data in this graph, you get tokens of the data you create. And now we know who owns what data. So now as that data gets traversed or used in any way, you have like verifiable attribution, and we can programmatically flow value to the people who created the data in the first place. So let's say you pay it's a cost per query model. You're prompting the AI, you pay 10 cents for a query. That query traverses like some data points that you created. You get paid for being like a token holder of this data. And you can buy, everything's on bonding curve. You can buy any arbitrary number of tokens of any arbitrary data point. So a data point could be a YouTube video, and it could be a like of the YouTube video. So when you click doesn't have to be complicated. It's like when you click the like button on YouTube, behind the scenes, it can buy tokens of the like of the YouTube video, which gives you kind of ownership of the video and the like of the video and the like functionality generally, because they're all little data points in this graph. And then as let's say you're the 100th person to like the video, and then 1 million people like the video after you make money from each subsequent like. Or let's say YouTube uses that data to curate people's feed, and they pay to get the data to curate the feed. They can flow that money to the people who like the video. So like the value of most platforms is the data we create for them. Like we are spending our time and our energy and our attention, which are our most valuable resources, creating data for these tech giants who give us pretty much nothing in return. So with this model, you can flip the switch. You can democratize the value capture of data generally, and you can do it in a way where it's fluid, it's programmatic, and just as the data gets interacted with on the read or write side, you're just like fluidly making money from useful contribution.
So Billy, what's more important, more data or better data?
You don't need a lot of data for it to be useful. Like, if we give you an app that lets you track things better, maybe you just want to use it because it provides you some utility. So our goal in the immediate term is not necessarily like capture a bunch of slop just to like make the knowledge graph big. Like, I don't care about terabytes of data. I care about like very high signal, small, like it can be, 1 terabyte and we could have a ton of good information. And the way that we get good information as opposed to bad information is give people something that's just useful for them. You don't have to play the multiplayer game yet. Give them a single player game, and by them playing the single player game just because they want to, because it's adding some value to their lives, you then are populating the graph so that you can in the future play the multiplayer game.
You mentioned that there's an important milestone coming in 9 days. Talk to us about the timeline of what we can expect from Intuition in the coming weeks and months. Basically, how can we get involved in the protocol?
Yeah, so we're in testnet right now, and then on October 16th, I'll use the day instead of number of days, but October 16th, that is our current target date for TGE, which also coincides with the mainnet launch of our network, and it also coincides with the mainnet launch of our protocol, and the mainnet launch of our kind of like Rust, I call it the Rust subnet, like Rust backend, like you can run an Intuition node if you want to. So all of that is going to prod on the 16th. So it's quite busy. If you want right now, you can, test things out on testnet. You can go to intuition.systems. You can find everything there. But like, if you want the actual app, you can go to portal.intuition.systems and kind of like click around and at least get familiar with the primitives. But yeah, so from day one, the token's just used for everything. So if you want to do anything on the network, you'll need some trust. If you want to do anything with the protocol, you'll need some trust. If you want to build anything, you'll need some trust. If you want to speculate in these information markets, you need some trust. So yeah, if you want to participate in the Intuition ecosystem, just be on the lookout. October 16th is the date that Trust is going live in a venue near you, hopefully.
I think this is a great place for us to wrap up, guys. So first, I want to remind our listeners they can learn more about Intuition by going to intuition.systems. They can go to X and follow 0x Intuition, and then be sure to follow 0x Billy, which is Billy's personal handle. Billy, thanks so much for coming on. So great to see you. Congratulations on this upcoming milestone. Really excited to be able to use Intuition on mainnet. And any other final word for us before we go?
Keep being bullish, ETH. Keep building. Don't get discouraged. There's so many interesting problems to solve in the world, and I still think that Ethereum is like one of the best tools that we have to solve those problems and change the world at scale. And please start thinking about the decentralization of some of these other layers of the stack, like the information layer or the interaction layer, or like some of the stuff that we're thinking about. Like if you want to read our white paper, I think there's some useful tidbits in there that might open the surface area up of what you can do with things like Ethereum. But there's a deep sense of urgency. Like we have to solve some of these problems now, otherwise we're gonna devolve into a crazy dystopia, or at least have the chance of doing it. There just should be no chance of doing it. We're directly trending in a direction where there is the possibility that your whole life is controlled by a couple super powerful actors, and that is not the way that it should be. And we have a chance right now to build stuff that will make a difference. And I don't, like, if you're doing anything else, like, just put down whatever weapon you're holding over here and come over here and build some shit, because it is so imperative that we solve this stuff. And I hope that everyone can see it. I hope more and more people see it and more people start building. Doesn't matter your skill set. Every single skill set is needed. Everyone can even be a dev now. You can vibe code stuff, but we just need more people thinking about this stuff and building it. And not only is it imperative that we do it, but it's a pretty exciting time to be doing it. So yeah, that's my closing statement is become a decentralization maxi, not just in theory, but like with your time and your energy and attention.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. To stay up to date with future episodes, plus get expert tips, strategies, and exclusive content, Subscribe to our free newsletter at the-edge.xyz.